The Fantasy Football Tips Podcast with Mills, JP, Quigliarno, and Cliff.
Hi, you're listening to the Fantasy Football Edge podcast. My name is Mills. It is game week 15, although we're still in the middle of game week 14, and I'm joined this week by JP. Good evening, JP. How are you?
Good evening. I'm good. I'm excited about the podcast, and I'm happy to be here.
Happy to be here. I should think so. I mean, JP, you must be walking around with an ego the size of a house right now, because in the last time we spoke, and it was, not everyone would have heard it because I think it was in the podcast Extra Time, but we did the Steal or No Deal, didn't we? And
we did.
You put out a certain Ashley Young.
I did. Well,
myself and Quigliano both went with it and said, actually, he is a bit of a steal at 4.9 million, and he probably should be in your team. And since then, he's got an assist. It was kind of a goal, but it was a deflected goal, so it went down as an assist, as an own goal. And then 2 goals last night against Watford.
Absolutely. My head and shoulders are very high at the moment. And do you know what, Millsy? This is what we do it for. This is what this podcast is all about. It's coming out with world-class tips that people can use to improve their squad. And I really hope that just 1 or 2 at least make that change and reap the rewards. I'm delighted.
Absolutely. I mean, world class. You've got some. You've got a tough act to follow, haven't you, tonight?
Yeah, very tough.
And you kind of did predict the future. And this week already, he's the most transferred in player. So following on from yesterday's deadline, he's the most transferred in player ahead of game week 15. So pretty good shout there, JP. And I think his price will start to rise quite rapidly. But in all seriousness, obviously, it was very good timing with the shout, and he did do. Obviously, he went on and scored, and he looked pretty decent actually against Watford, as he did at the weekend against Brighton as well. But long term, do you still?
And he's a guaranteed starter.
Yeah, pretty much. So, do you stand by that as a shout? Long term, is he still definitely going to be in your thoughts?
Absolutely, especially if you've got him in now, because his price is going to go up clearly. And he's so cheap. I mean, there's obviously going to be some tough fixtures for United coming up. They've got one on Saturday against Arsenal. But he's just a guaranteed starter. He's very cheap. He's playing in a very good side who are going to score goals. He's going to get assists. I think he's a no-brainer. I think get him in your team.
Absolutely, and we're going to talk about Arsenal versus Man United in a second, actually. But coming up in the podcast today, we've got obviously the Gary of the Week, we've got the usual side tips, we'll have the long shot. I'm going to bring back Stat Attack as well for you, JP. Something a little bit different today, something that's going to be of general FPL use to everyone, but also something that's a little bit different, and it's going to test your general knowledge with it. Hoping you've brought back another Steal or No Deal for us this week as well.
I have. I've got one ready. I don't know if it's quite as strong as Ashley Young, but we'll see.
Okay, we will see. And we've got some questions from the fans and our captain picks for game week 15. So I did say we were going to talk about the Arsenal versus Man United game. That is probably the big fixture, isn't it, in game week 15. Arsenal have this 100% home record. United have been a little bit in and out away from home. Obviously, we saw a massively improved performance against Watford on Tuesday. Where are your thoughts in terms of that game? Because just looking at we're recording this podcast at about 20 past 7 on Wednesday night, and we're just sort of recovering from finding out the rotations that have taken place. But Arsenal have actually gone out with a pretty strong team, as did Man United last night. So, thoughts on that game?
Yeah, I mean, well, first of all, it's a tough game to call in terms of the results. And, relating that back to fantasy football, I think you're certainly not going to use captain picks on that game, because I think it's tough to call, So if I had to lean towards one team or the other, I think United will edge it. I think they've got the players who are in form a little bit more than Arsenal. It's a tough place to go, though, like you say. We'd have to break the statistics of the perfect record. But like I say, I think the big thing is that I'm not going to be using a captain choice with anyone in that game, put it that way.
Yeah, absolutely. And then just a word on Lukaku, because we talked about the most transferred in player being Ashley Young, but the most transferred out at the moment is Lukaku, and that might change ahead of the weekend. But he's not looking great, is he, at the moment?
No, he's a bit of a classic, isn't he? He'll score a load of goals in a short period of time, and then he'll have a dry spell. The only slightly redeeming feature is that he has had a few assists during that time, so he's not he's not always blanked by any means. I think he's had 3 assists since he scored his last goal. I can see why people are transferring him out simply because he's so expensive, and there probably are better options. Personally, I'm hanging fire for a few more games yet.
Yeah, I think it's a difficult one. I think my patience might have run out with him. I think so.
Okay.
Yeah, but it's a tough one, and potentially we may see some more backlash from the rotations at the weekend because, like I said, some teams have gone out there with stronger sides, but then Hazard has been missing. Well, Hazard's not playing for Chelsea tonight. Sané's not involved. Silva's been dropped. Salah has been dropped. Coutinho has been dropped. Well, not dropped, but they're being rested, aren't they? So,
yeah,
I don't know. I suppose the question is, are some of the players that are playing tonight going to be a risk at the weekend?
They could well be. I think you've got to look at the squads that they're playing in and what options they've got. For example, Man City have got huge depth, so resting someone like Silva tonight is quite easy for them. And for other teams, they have to play their big players every game. They can't afford to rest players because they won't win games. So I think it's a case of looking at the squad depth as well and making your decision. I don't think, all the big players are going to, if they play tonight, won't play on Saturday. But I'd have a good long look and I'd do some research, definitely.
Absolutely. And, you look at the like you say, the smaller teams who can't really afford that rotation. Yeah. Maybe one of those teams is Watford, who, although they lost to Man United last night, they still look pretty strong. You've got 2 Watford players in your midfield, haven't you? You've got Richarlison and Doucouré. And Richarlison looked pretty strong last night, as he has done for the last few weeks. But Doucouré scored. So they've got another tough fixture in Spurs this weekend, and we might talk about them later because Spurs really look like the bubble might have burst a little bit. So they've lost their way a little bit. But are you happy with that at the moment, with those 2 Watford players?
Yeah, I mean, it's very unorthodox to have 2 Watford players. I am actually happy, and I don't think I can warrant taking them out of the team right now. Like you say, Doucouré scored, Richarlison scoring points almost every week, bar the occasional time. So, yeah, I mean, they're cheap. They allow for other players in more attacking positions, who are worth more. So I'm really happy at the moment. I'd actually recommend having them in your team.
Okay, good stuff. Nice intro there, JP. It's good to be back, and we'll be back right after this with this week's Gary of the Week, the Xabi Alonso, and the side tips.
The Fantasy Football Edge Podcast. 90% drivel, 9% ego, and 1% tips.
Okay, JP. The stage is yours again. You're not going to hit us with another David De Gea Gary of the Week, are you?
No, I've learnt my lesson there. That was foolish. But we learn and we grow, and that's what this is all about.
And you are in good form. So
and I am in good form.
This could be FPL gold coming up.
Well, the Gary of the Week, we've already mentioned this player. He's being rested tonight, which tells me that he will play on Saturday, and he'll be a very significant player, and I'm going to go with Eden Hazard.
I love the pronunciation of that, by the way. Could you give me that again?
Eden Hazard. Hazard. He's clearly being rested tonight with a thought to Saturday. They're playing against Newcastle, who seem to be wavering. I know they managed to claw back a draw, but they look like they're struggling to me. They're conceding a lot of goals. They're at home, Chelsea. I think Hazard's going to absolutely destroy them, and I think he's a bit of a no-brainer as a captain choice, Gary of the Week.
Yeah, I like that. Really like that. I think it's very difficult to look past that Chelsea versus Newcastle fixture. And while we're just talking about Chelsea, we'll move on to the Xabi Alonso in a second. Their fixture list is absolutely unreal. Like, they have one difficult game, a game that I would consider significantly difficult, which is against Arsenal, until like the middle of February.
Wow, that's actually really significant. I didn't realise that.
Every single other game is on the FPL website is rated as a difficulty rating of 2. So if I just read some of these out to you, this is the next 5. Swansea at home. That's tonight.
Wow.
Swansea at home, Newcastle home, West Ham away, Huddersfield away, Southampton home. Then they go away to Everton. Sorry, that's a difficulty level 3, but at the moment, let's be honest, that's a 1. Although by the time Sam Allardyce has got hold of them, probably not. Then they go Brighton home, Stoke home. Then they've got the Arsenal away game, Leicester home, Brighton away, Bournemouth home, Watford away, West Brom home. That takes you the next game after that is the 24th of February.
That's unreal. That's the easiest set of games I've ever heard in the Premier League.
It's unbelievable.
That is unbelievable.
Surely you've got to stock
Wow.
up on those players, and putting Hazard in for this week is probably the way to go, and then you stock up from there. Morata's already been transferred in heavily, so those are obviously going to be the key too. So hit us with a Xabi.
The Xavi, the long shot. Well, I'm quite excited about this one actually. I'm going to go with Choupo-Moting, playing against Swansea at home. He got a goal a week ago against Brighton. Looks like a good player to me. Not a lot of people have him. He's quite cheap. And I think he's a nice long shot option. I think he'll probably score in that game, Millsy.
Okay, that's interesting. It'll be interesting to see how Swansea do tonight. Obviously, it's very difficult for us, isn't it, given these tips before more than half the fixtures have been played this week.
Yeah,
effectively. But Swansea have been okay away from home this season in terms of defensively. They've not obviously set the world alight in terms of goals, but defensively they've been pretty well organised. So it'll be interesting to see how they do at Chelsea. But again, Stoke, they're scoring goals, aren't they? So and
yeah, they are.
Has been all right. So okay, that's an interesting one. I quite like that. I'll give you that one, JP.
Okay.
And give us some side tips then.
Right, I mean, there's a lot of side tips. You've already heavily touched on Chelsea, and I think you could pick out 4 or 5 players from that squad right now. You could have Fabregas, definitely. You could have Morata. You could have Hazard. You could even go a little bit adventurous and go for one of the wingers, the likes of Willian and Pedro, although they don't start as much as I would like. And then, again, you've got to look at Liverpool at the moment. They're scoring goals, attacking players, the likes of... apologies there. The likes of Firmino, Coutinho, still very, very good options. I'm also going to mention some of the Burnley back four. Very, very cheap at the moment, the Burnley players. And they're doing really well. People like me. He's been selected by, I think, 13% of people now,
yeah,
which is crazy.
I've got him in my team.
Well, there you go. Yeah, he's a nice option. He's scoring points. Quite a cheap defender. I've already mentioned Doucouré and Richarlison. I still think they're really good side tip options. I still like the Zaha shout. Crystal Palace are struggling, but he seems like they're sort of their glimmer of hope amongst the challenge. And then last but not least, I'm going to mention some of the Stoke players again. I sort of said the little side tips. Shaqiri is a nice little option. He's getting assists. I don't know if you realise that. He has got a few assists. The only fixture that's difficult, but if you're looking long-term, Arsenal and Man United players, I'd say Ashley Young now has become a side tip. Good option. And I'd finish with, as a side tip, United defence, because, usually keeping clean sheets with the exception of last night against Watford, of course. So there's some side tips for you, Millsy. I don't know if you want to add to it.
No, I don't. I'm not going to add to it because I think you've put plenty in there. I think it's interesting to me that you didn't put any Man City players in there. And I was going to come to this question. We've had an email from Tony, and he says, "Has the Man City bubble burst?" Just 4. I mean, this is ridiculous. Just 4 goals in their last 2 games in the league. But you didn't mention any City players there, and they've got West Ham this week, who have not had the greatest of starts themselves under Moyes. So, and it was a slightly improved performance last week, wasn't it? But
yeah,
has the bubble burst a little bit? Obviously, we've seen tonight that Sané, Silva have been rested. Interesting that you've got Aguero, I think, and Jesus playing tonight in the same team. So has the bubble burst a bit? Or, I mean, I don't think the bubble has burst, but maybe the bubble around those midfielders, like Sané, people are very fickle, aren't they? They're very quick to jump on these players, but then they're very quick to drop them when they have one game where they don't score.
Absolutely. No, the bubble hasn't burst, not at all. I think there's still some great options in there, isn't there? It's just this week there's happened to be 2 fixtures and they've had to rotate slightly, or Pep Guardiola's made the decision to do that to rest his players and get the best out of them. I still think obvious choices in De Bruyne, David Silva, Sterling, and for me, Sané. I personally am not sure about Aguero and Jesus, just simply because of the rotation. That's my honest opinion. But in terms of side tips, I still think those 4 are really good options.
Yeah, agree. Okay, JP, I'm going to go in with Stat Attack.
fantastic. I'm looking forward to this because last week it was a bit dull, wasn't it? Let's be honest.
Well, you say that. I think last week it gave some real value. So.
Okay.
Anyway, and this kind of comes off the back. The first one comes off the back of your Zaha shout there that you just talked about Crystal Palace. The first stat: Crystal Palace have failed to score in their last 9 away games in the league.
Wow.
Last 9 away games, they've failed to score. So you could look at that whichever way you want in terms of, okay, don't put a Crystal Palace player in, or whoever Crystal Palace play away against, defensive clean sheets, massive potential.
Yeah, definitely. I suppose the only small thing I would say is that they're playing against West Brom, who have been particularly poor recently. However, still a very interesting stat and might be worth sticking a West Brom centre-back in.
Absolutely, could well be. And then the second one, this is more of a general one. It's a bit of a question for you. I know you like your football trivia, so
I do a lot.
And let's give the fans at home a little bit of time to answer as well. So, 2 players have scored Premier League penalties with both feet. Name them. 2 players who've scored Premier League penalties with both feet.
Wow. That's a good question.
It's a great quiz question, isn't it? Pub quiz.
That's a great quiz question. My obvious go-to would be Aguero.
No.
No. Okay. Wow.
I don't think you're going to get him, I'll be honest.
I'll have one more guess. Just one more. Crikey, now I have to come up with a guess now I've said that. Troy Deeney.
I love the way you were like halfway through your thought process, and then you literally threw that out as quick as it came into your mind, didn't you? You didn't have a second thought.
Troy Deeney.
Incorrect.
Oh,
no.
It's worth a shot.
It was Bobby Zamora.
What?
And Obafemi Martins.
Oh, okay. Now, I'm going to be honest, I've been a bit stupid here, because for some reason I was thinking this season. I don't know why I thought that.
Right. No. Overall,
however,
in the all-time Premier League.
Yeah, would still never have got those in a month of Sundays. So,
no, I didn't.
I like that, though. I like that, Millsy.
Good. I've brought some value there, have I? I knew you'd like the trivia. I knew I'd reel you in with that trivia. So,
see, I think that should be a weekly thing.
I'm going to bring it back. Forget what Quigliano said. He's not here this week. So
exactly.
Anyway, JP, we're going to give everyone access to the podcast extra time this week. So we'll have a little podcast extra time jingle, but we're going to be everyone's going to be on board this week. What do you think about that?
I'm really excited about it.
Okay, let's go.
It's time to go deep. It's time for the podcast extra.
Okay, welcome back to Podcast Extra Time, joined by JP. This is where we have a little bit more, it's I suppose, more drivel, isn't it, JP?
Yeah, effectively, yes. But we love it.
We do indeed. I'm going to go in, first of all, with a question from Twitter. This is from Gerpy, I think it is. When is the best time to play the free hit and bench boost? It's quite a general question. Both slightly different, I suppose.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people would argue the bench boost you do during a double game week.
Mm-hmm.
I think generally speaking, I would just look at the fixtures, look at my team, and think, when have I got the best fixtures? Which week really sort of excites me in terms of my team, and I'd be looking to do it then. But obviously, a lot of people like to do it during the double game week, so you get it twice, don't you?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
that's probably the obvious answer.
I suppose the difficulty with that is often people have players who on the bench that don't play, so then it's how do you manage that? Do you play it the week after playing a wild card and try and get all those players in, or you kind of got to look at the fixtures to some extent, I think, and obviously your squad depth. Free hit, thoughts on that? Is that the same, do you think? Because a lot of people said last week was a good week to play the free hit. And you might have said the same this week with like a midweek fixture where we know some players are going to get rotated, and almost take the opposite approach and go for some of have a free hit where you go for players from the smaller clubs rather than the players from the bigger clubs. I don't know. Is that a possible strategy?
I think you've hit the nail on the head, really. I think, yeah, absolutely. I think you do it when you know there's going to be squad rotation. Probably if you were going to choose a specific time to do it. Otherwise, you do it when you feel like your squad needs it. But yeah, no, I would agree with you, Mills. I think you've hit the nail on the head there.
Okay, good stuff. We're going to go in with Steal or No Deal now then, JP. I almost feel like I should be bowing down but I can't
Yes.
because my headphones are attached to my microphone. So
That's okay.
If I do, the whole show might just be destroyed before us. So I will do a virtual bow down. I would like to call upon the listeners to also do a virtual bow down, because last time you called out Ashley Young.
Well, Millsy, first of all, can I say thank you for the sentiment there? Really appreciate that. Like I say, the shout tonight I don't think is as strong, but I do still like it. I'm going to go with Richie of Newcastle, and I'm going to explain why.
Please do, because I'm almost saying no deal before you've even finished.
Hear me out.
The surname.
Hear me out. Hear me out. They've got a difficult fixture in Chelsea. All right, next week. I understand that. However, after that, they've got 2 much easier fixtures. They're playing Leicester at Newcastle, and then they're playing Everton at Newcastle. 2 slightly easier fixtures. Now, he has actually, if you look at statistically, he's actually scored some good points recently. He got 8 points in his last fixture. He's guaranteed time on the pitch. He's only selected by 3% of players. And he's a very cheap option in midfield, and he allows you to bring someone else in. If you watch Newcastle play and you ask Newcastle fans, they will tell you that he's one of their best players and that he's one of their biggest threats. I watched him against United when we battered them, and Richie stood out for me. He looked good. So, is he an Ashley Young shout? Probably not. Do I think he's a nice cheap option? I believe I've not got the stats in front of me right now, but I believe he's 5.1 million.
He's 5.7. So
oh, right, miles away.
It's a question. The God has failed us.
Well, do you know what that is? That's my eyesight, because I actually have looked at that tonight, and I thought it actually looked like a 1. So I need to go down to Specsavers and get my eyes tested.
I think he also has the number 11 shirt, so maybe all those ones have maybe
boggled my mind.
Maybe.
But he has got a total point score of about 53, is it?
55. So yeah,
okay, that was close.
It's pretty good, JP. He also got all 3 bonus points in the game last night. Two assists. So
there
he
you
hasn't
go.
scored any goals this season. He's capable of scoring a goal. So I do agree. I think Matt Ritchie's he's a good player. He's done well really to cement that place in that Newcastle side, because Benitez has chopped it around a little bit. There's not a massive amount of quality in there, let's be honest. So it's a
borderline,
isn't
it?
It's a decent shout. I think the only thing that I am going to say no deal, JP.
Okay,
and the only reason I'm going to say no deal is because of that price tag of 5.7. I just think at that price there are probably some other decent options that you could go for. It's a good shout. Like if putting Richie in allows you to play 3 top-class strikers that you couldn't have before, then okay, fair enough. It's an all right shout. 3.1% ownership, so you're getting some decent differential. I mean, look, if you had him in your team last night, you're absolutely loving it, aren't you? 11-point return.
Exactly.
So, but just given the fixture this week plus the price, I'm going to no deal on that. So
that's fair enough.
Look,
and I think, to be honest, the shouts become slightly worse knowing that it's 5.7 instead of 5.1. So I will get down to Specsavers, everyone. I will get my eyes tested and make sure I get that exactly correct next time.
Good stuff, but it's a decent show. I do quite like it, and it might help someone. So who knows?
Yeah.
Okay, JP, we're doing it quite short and sweet tonight because the games are about to kick off, and I think we both want to go and put our feet up and take in the action. So we're going to finish off with our captain picks for game week 15, and I'm going to let you go first.
Right. Well, I'm glad you have. Okay, my captain choice is going to be Eden Hazard.
Do you know what? I knew you were going to say that, but it was worth it just to hear that pronunciation again.
Eden Hazard.
Love it. I don't even know if I can say it like that. Eden Hazard.
That's very nicely done. Well done.
Beautiful. Okay, and obviously the same justification as what you gave us earlier, I'm guessing.
Yeah, just to add to it, I'm going to transfer him in. And I'm going to do that through getting rid of a striker who I don't think's performing as well as he should be. Going to bring in Hazard, strengthen up the midfield, and I think, like you say, the fixture list. You've inspired me with the fixture list. I didn't realise it was that good, and I think he's on fire when he's been playing recently. So he's a no-brainer.
Okay, I like it, and I'm actually going to go with Harry Kane. Slightly forgotten man. in the sense that, he's not been getting braces and running away with games. But up against Watford had a tough game in midweek, and they put a lot into that game. I did watch it, and I just think, although their performance was good, Spurs are better away from home, and they were, they did not get a good result. Well, they're going off the back of two pretty bad results: a home draw against West Brom and then losing to Leicester. So they have to go out there and win. And I think it's this type of game. Harry Kane will find space, in that Watford defence, and I think he'll exploit it. And let's not forget he has actually scored in his last two games, so he's pretty likely to score in this one. And I just get the feeling that Spurs have to just push that little bit more in this one. The title's pretty much gone away from them. And that's my pick, Harry Kane. So, there's so many players out there that you could go with this week. I think, you've got to look at that Man City fixture against West Ham. Again, it'll be interesting to see what West Ham do tonight and how they fare. But yeah, so that's my pick. JP, just on that before we close out, Spurs for you, what's happened? What's gone wrong?
Right. Well, first of all, I think when Harry Kane got injured, I think he came back too soon. Now, some people will say, well, he still scored goals. And yeah, he actually looks quite good. But I think the team I think their confidence lies in him. And I think to an extent, there was a little bit of anxiety and nerves in the players when he wasn't there and when he returned quite early. And I think their squad depth, we said it was quite good. But recently, it seems to me like when they've rotated that team, it seems like it's not as solid or as consistent as it should be. I also think they were on very much a high after that Champions League win against Real Madrid. And I think that sort of buzz in Wembley was something quite special. And it feels to me like they've almost come back down to earth too quickly. Does that make sense? It's kind of a case of they had this incredible Champions League win, and now they've got to go and play Watford away. And it feels like there's less passion in their performances.
Well, I agree. I think to an extent, I think you're absolutely right there. But they can't afford to have that, can they? And I think they potentially will have a rocket up their backside this week ahead of that Watford game. So let's see. It'll be an interesting one. JP, I mean, there's not a long time to go until until Saturday. So it's my birthday weekend, so I'll be out celebrating, and I'll be hoping for 100+ week. Which is
absolutely
highly unlikely, but you never know. JP, it has been a pleasure tonight, and it's been nice to let everyone in on the podcast extra time as well, which again has been a little bit shorter and sweeter, hopefully. But I'm just going to close out by saying good luck to you and good luck to everyone else listening. Anything from you, JP?
Oh, I apologise. I didn't realise you were waiting for me. It's been a good night. I really enjoyed that podcast. I think we've given some good tips, and best of luck to everyone. And Millsy, I hope you have a fantastic birthday.
Thank you very much, JP. We'll see everyone for Game Week 16 next week.
Did you just say you captained Jordan Henderson? Have a word with yourself.